All right, so this is part three, continuation of just kind of diving into who I am as a person, where I came from, the people and situations that influenced who I am the most. So I left off, I would say, in high school, 16, 17, so say sophomore, junior year. At this point, I'm working at Popeyes. So I named my page Timeshare Clarence because I really feel like once I got into timeshare as an owner and when I started selling timeshare and really understanding the value, it really did have an impact and changed who I am because it changed how I look at things. So I would say at this point, this was when I first started working, and it was a similar effect. So I started working at Popeyes and made some new friends. Focus shifted a lot from school to work because at the time I really had no direction. And once I started working, it was something that I could kind of throw myself into again, another challenge to be the best. It's comical looking back, but I really wanted to be the best. We called it batter man. So like, you know, at Popeyes, automatically, if you got hired, all of the males went in the back, all the females worked in the front. So my little brother actually got a job there first, told me to go apply when I did an interview and got hired. Started working. A lot of my classmates were working at Popeyes. It was it was crazy. Like that's one of the worst jobs you can have. Anyway, so worked my way up to being a certified trainer and manager pretty quick. So this is in high school. So I'm like sophomore, junior in high school, and I'm a manager at Popeyes, which created some conflicts. I don't really want to dive too much into that. I may address it another time. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing was it really showed me the difference between my approach, my thought processes, and the majority of the people my age. Because, yeah, it's fast food and it's mostly high school kids, but I didn't think or act like most of the high school kids. So that was kind of the distinction. So I would say at that point, uh, that's what I was known for. Like the Popeyes I worked at, everybody would come in. Everybody pretty much knew me from being a manager at Popeyes outside of school. Uh, I had a couple of other things that I got some notoriety for. Mostly this fight that I had because there was this individual that I got into it with several times. I got jumped, ran into him at the mall, and just say I got my revenge. And a lot of people saw that. So then I kind of was like known for beating this dude up in the mall, uh, which is not like something I'm proud of. It's just that was the situation. I really stayed to myself. I really was focused on work. And I was making 5.15 an hour when I started at Popeyes and really trying to make the most money I could. So in high school, I actually moved out. So I was dating an older lady by my senior year in high school. But I'll get to that because I don't want to get off of when I was 16, 17 just yet. So at this point, I'm going back and forth a lot from St. Louis, where I lived, to Michigan, where both of my parents still lived. Um, and I remember one of the more significant interactions with my dad, and ultimately our relationship around this time. So I went back to Jackson, Michigan to visit, and I really just wanted to go spend time with my brother Timmy. So my dad told me I needed to be back to Carolyn's place at a certain time. I think he said 10. I'm not sure. But whatever it was unreasonable to me because I didn't come to Jackson to sit at Carolyn's house. I came to Jackson to spend time with my brother, with my friends. It was a few people I wanted to see. And it's not like I had school or anything. You know, at this point I'm working. I had my own money, had a little bit of freedom. So I remember my dad telling me to be back at, I want to say 10 o'clock. And we got in this kind of argument. So basically told him I wasn't going to be back at 10 o'clock. And he told me I wasn't going to disrespect him. You know, he was still my dad. And I kind of just snapped like, you're not even really my dad, you know? You should have been trying to be my dad when I was growing up, you know, all those times when you weren't there for birthdays, special occasions, things I had going on, school, whatever the case was. So I just kind of went off on my dad like, man, that ship sailed. You know, I don't even live with you. You're not even really there for me. You never really been there for me. You never been a good dad. So like to pull this I'm your dad card when I'm living with my grandparents and like you don't really have any influence on my life at this point. Cause I really like my dad was everything to me and he just let me down over and over. So anyway, I told him basically he'd be lucky if we would be friends at this point because like that I'm your dad ship had sailed. And my dad told me at that point that I made him feel small. Carolyn used to have these little decorative elephants and they was all different sizes, but it was a pretty small one. And I remember my dad telling me he felt so small that he could just crawl up under that elephant. But that's really how I felt at the time. And really going forward, I think that was the shift in our relationship because I didn't really, that was the first time I felt like my dad understood the impact of, you know, what he did and what he didn't do as a parent. So, you know, I left, I did what I wanted to do. But the point of that was it was kind of the shift in the relationship with my dad where he stopped trying to be overbearing or dictate to me and kind of just accepted that I'm coming into my own, even though, yeah, I was still young, but like I said, I was mature, I was responsible. So that's where we started really kind of communicating more, even though I wasn't a man, but man to man. And that was a huge thing. So I remember going back and forth. My mom got remarried to her second husband. So when I found this out, like I didn't even, like I had never met the dude. I had never heard of the dude. So like I'm just confused. Like my mom telling me that like she marrying somebody I never even heard of or heard anything about from anybody. So that was another little kind of transition trying to process the relationship with my dad, the relationship with my mom, you know, my mom having a new husband, like trying to develop a relationship with him, which was kind of interesting because I felt like he really was willing to do the things my dad wasn't willing to do, like go play basketball and spend time, try to go fishing and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But it was, I don't know, it was weird because I didn't really see him in the same light as I saw a lot of other men that I had been around. I don't want to say I didn't respect him, but it was like I kind of looked at it like, man, like I could beat this dude up. And that's sad. But at the time, that was kind of my thought process. Like, I'm stronger than this dude. Like, but this my mom husband. Uh, so like I wanted to be cool with him, but I didn't really see him as a like authority figure or anything. And I don't think he ever really tried to be. So, I mean, we had a cool relationship, but that didn't work out for them. But I do remember, that was kind of a period of time where I at least had somebody trying to invest in spending time with me and kind of being in that role that my dad never was. Because my dad rarely ever did anything. And the excuses that he gave were just like ridiculous. And some stuff, my dad was a very blunt person. And if you ask a question, you're going to get an answer you probably not necessarily going to like. So I just remember certain things standing out. Like, I asked my dad to take me to the movies. He never would take me to the movies. I remember my entire life. I remember my dad taking me to see License to Kill in the late 80s when I was really, too young to even go watch something like that. But I remember my dad taking me to the movies to see License to Kill before like going to the movies was even something that I wanted to do. But then throughout the rest of my childhood and into my teens, like when I wanted to do stuff with my dad, whether it was go play basketball, whether it was go to the movies, it was just always an excuse. He didn't feel well, his knees, his back, just any and everything. And I remember that having a huge impact on me because he would go on dates. Like, I remember him taking women to the movies. So I asked him about it, and it was like, yo, how come you can't go to the movies or take me to the movies, but you can take so and so to the movies? And yeah, it was an answer that was just like crazy to me. But I won't get into that. So at this time, it was just a lot going on, and I was really trying to just figure out where I belonged, what was important to me, because even though I didn't want much to do with my dad, that still was my dad. And it was still a huge kind of void in my life because of him not being a good dad. And I didn't really have a desire to do a lot of things because he wasn't there. So I was just kind of working and trying to become a man earlier than, I should have been or even made sense to try to be. So this is like what was going on with me, after 16. I think that's when I really started being more interested in girls, which at the time was just talking on the phone all day. Whenever I wasn't at work, I was just on the phone. I never was into video games. All the people around me, I wouldn't even call friends, but the people that I was around, they was just playing video games and stuff, and I was just working and pretty much trying to find a relationship to fill whatever void. So I felt like somebody cared about me and was gonna be there for me and all of that stuff, which kind of spiraled because I never saw a model of a good relationship, romantic relationship. So I always wanted that, and I won't say probably, I was way too serious. I wanted to be married. I wanted a wife. I wanted a family. I wanted all that stuff because I felt like that would essentially fill this void, which I think came from mostly my dad not being there and me wanting that dynamic of truly feeling like I had a family, because at this point, I never really felt close to my brother. I hadn't really developed the close relationship that I had with my sister. My mom, I felt like our relationship really shifted just based off one event. I got in trouble for something that my uncle did just because she didn't believe me. And that just really like kind of shattered me because I was a mama's boy my whole life until, it was time to go stay with my dad, or I wanted to go stay with my dad. But that was a big reason why, because I just felt so dejected that I got in trouble for something I didn't do that her little brother did. And I was just so sick of always having to be part of, a group, and then to be getting in trouble. And he didn't get in trouble. So that was the thing. It was like, so, I was raised to be honest, and you don't even believe me. So what was the point of you telling me all of this stuff, teaching me all of this stuff, training me to be a certain way, but then when push come to shove, you don't even believe me when I'm telling the truth? So it was just so much going on. And then I had, like I mentioned, the fight. That was a whole like series of things with this dude that just, I think, stemmed from jealousy. We worked together at Popeyes. Like I said, I became a manager. We had some altercations. He thought he was tough, kind of gang member, wannabe thug. And I just really wasn't having that. None of that stuff mattered to me. Like I said, I grew up being taught how to fight by my dad. Wasn't really scared of anybody. It was just like, yo, like, you're gonna have to prove to me how tough you are if you really think you're that tough. And it didn't really amount to a lot of conflicts. I didn't get in a lot of fights because most of the time I end up doing some type of demonstration for a few people, and then that'd be it. Like, people thought, oh, he could fight, or he know martial arts or whatever. And I mean, I really don't feel like I knew martial arts. I just knew a few things, but it was enough to keep me out of fights. So this is kind of when I transitioned from being a kid to acting like an adult. So now you fast forward junior, senior year. In between this time, I'm really going like way beyond what's typical. Manager at Popeyes, dedicating a lot of time to work, school kind of fading. I was actually in this program because I wanted to be a teacher. So I was allowed to like do student teaching for half of the day. So at one point in time, I would do my classes in the morning, and then I would go at lunchtime and go to the middle school and do student teaching. And then eventually I ended up doing student teaching in a freshman class at the high school. So I really wanted to teach my whole life. And I quickly saw that if I was going to teach, I didn't want to teach little kids because the element of responsibility. I felt like it was too much responsibility to teach kids because teenagers or adults have to take the accountability if they don't do what they want to do, or they don't do what they're supposed to. It's kind of on them. But with little kids, it's still on the teacher. So I had a lot going on. And that, me being more mature, me getting into management early, me dating someone older, like, it was just